All right, I tell you what, normally I don't do this, but you're pretty cool because you clicked on this video, so let me show you the humble foam dart. And then, I mean, that was a little cringe, but that's also freaking cool. Meet the HG G4. And there's a cute story about how I got this thing, because I was literally just asked, hey, do you want to do a video on this, and shown a picture, and I was like, yeah, that looks kind of cool. How does it work? Does it use shells or something? Like, nah, dude. Use darts. I was like, they all use darts, but this one uses darts. You might be aware of some other lever actions in NERF, such as the silly lever action blaster, which uses magazines, which is pretty cool. It's like one of the only blasters that's lever action that does that. I mean, unless you count the NERF sling fire, which in 2024, I really don't. Or how about my beautiful Valor Blaster's custom Winchester from Shellington Arms? It's a little too long and commanding to fit in frame right now, but you just take the shell, you load it into the thing, and then you lever action it, and it fires the dart, and ejects the shell. Both really cool blasters in their own right with a little bit of flair on both sides. However, the G4, yeah, you could just take a foam dart, in this case an Adventure Force Pro dart, and you could just load this thing. It uses short darts only, and you can just load them into the tube. Really, really nice and easy. It holds like 8, I think. And yes, you can in fact 8+1 this thing for a total of 9. How much does it cost? Don't worry about that. Just like, no, stay away from that link. Yeah, okay, this thing is monstrously expensive. So expensive, in fact, I'm sure there's somebody down below that's already left a comment. Go ahead and drop down there, maybe poke fun at them a little, and while you're going down that way, hit like and hit subscribe for very expensive NERF lever action things. Not that you haven't already clicked on the link, but this thing was sent to me by phantomtoys.com.au. I can't thank them enough for this, because I didn't even know it existed until they sent it to me. And if you don't have the coin in your coffers, well then, Arthur, just one more big score. We get the money, we get ourselves an HGG4. But yes, for the money of this thing, you could buy a real lever action. I have one here to demonstrate. We'll just, so we're safe for this airsoft thing. Yeah, actually, this costs double what this does. That being said, this does not fire NERF darts. So for our purposes here, it is entirely useless, and there is somebody out there that's going to want a King's Gate loading lever action NERF blaster. And while this thing does take the crown for being able to do that without shells and without any kind of gimmick, and it's just a straight up good blaster, I'm sure there will be blasters in the future that will mimic this exact system and will be far less expensive, but they aren't going to be made entirely out of metal. You see, that's the reason why this boy is so expensive. But while I have this here, you will notice that that lever opens up about like that. Like, it's a very reasonable distance for pretty much everybody. And really only one of the flaws with the HGG4 here is that it opens up that far. So I've managed to work around this, and there are techniques that you can use if you have a shorter wingspan to operate this blaster, but you can either grip it like you mean it, or, you know, just take it off your shoulder to prime it. And getting something like this to fling foam darts is obviously a lot to ask for. Foam darts are a rather large projectile, they're soft, and they do weigh a lot more than something like an airsoft round, so having internals and stuff that is capable of firing this thing downrange at a substantial velocity is rather difficult. And you may be wondering how the G4 from HG accomplishes that. I mean, this is built by HG, it is the G4, their 4th blaster. They have I guess the inverted scales was like the G2? So that was also made by them. Also a freaking fantastic blaster. Don't you worry, I'll show you her insides here in just a little bit, but this thing is a work of art. It looks a little goofy. In fact, from the picture I was sent, I thought it was gonna be like some cheap knockoff thing. But no, this is serious. This is like completely milled polycarb or something. It is like the thickest this could be on a firearm it is really stout. Or the stock here, this big round grip here is obviously your plunger tube because this is air powered. And it looks a little goofy, I'll admit it, but it is solid as heck. I have dropped this thing several times now and it doesn't have a mark on it, which is very reassuring. It's even got an adjustable back sight with like some kind of like, I guess you could call that elevation notches and stuff in it. I mean, you are gonna probably angle shots if you need to go really deep and far, but it's even adjustable for windage with this thing on the side, and Yeah, this thing is so overbuilt, it isn't funny. The cheapest part on here is probably what we use for like the finger cushion right here on the lever. This is like that, this looks like a landline phone cable if you're old enough to remember those. Plus the laser etching on the side here is fantastic, although I wish it did kind of go down into the stock grip area because this looks a little plain in comparison. We've of course got our tube magazine down here and our barrel up here, and if you ever need to kind of service the tube mag, this little threaded thing at the top will allow you to pop it off, pull out the spring, pull out the follower, do whatever you need to do. I have had not a single jam inside this magazine whatsoever, and I have used it so many freaking times. And then at the front here, we do in fact have a barrel. This is where your dart will come out. And then we also have a Swin rifling B-car, which is, I don't know if you can actually buy these separately, but these usually come with Swin rifling blasters, and those are very expensive. How do I know? Well, check in the top right corner and you'll see a video from Tag, that old Nerf guy, where he talks about his $500 magazine-fed Night Finder pistol from them. Actually makes this thing seem affordable. And no, there is nothing special you need to do. You're gonna want a pretty recently decent stiff dart, a brand new one. If you have like a one that's obviously worn, it's not gonna fit in there very well, but other than that, it doesn't seem too picky. I've shot a variety of half darts through this thing and it shoots all of them just fine. You do have Picatinny rail up here for any kind of optic or rail mounted accessory you wanna put on the top of it, which I know it's sacrilegious, but trust me, you're probably gonna wanna put something on there. And then you have the trigger. Now the catch for the blaster is all the way back here. You can see that thing right there, and as I pull the trigger, you can see that little thing moving. Makes a little bit of sense, and this trigger is freaking amazing. It's not your typical kind of trigger design. It is a pivoting trigger, but it's more like a lever, and you could very easily two-finger it, and it feels amazing. It's super smooth. The catch on this thing is butter. It is fantastic. I mean, there is the concern that if you were to field this in a public place, some people might not understand it's a toy. It doesn't have an orange tip, although you could put an orange scar muzzle on the end of it. That may be a concern for you, so keep that in mind. But the thing I really want to prove to you right now is that this action is so ridiculously smooth. Now, obviously, I just primed it the first time I worked it, but that is butter. You don't get that with your typical foam dart blaster. This thing is incredibly well made, and it even has a trigger lock. So if I don't have that all the way down, yeah, it's locked. Put that down even more, still locked. Put that down even more, it fires. Now this blaster came to me with 3 springs, a light spring already installed in the blaster, a much stronger spring, and a spring that was in between the two. And with the light spring out of the box, I was reliably hitting over 140 feet per second, which is more than double what a standard Nerf blaster does and is a very good velocity. Put in that bigger batter spring and yeah, you could hit over 200 feet per second. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit more, which still hit anywhere from 160 to 180 FPS and was like half the priming weight of the big boy spring, so honestly, that's probably the way to go. All right, so gotta talk to you about something really quick. This blaster I broke. I don't mean I broke it in the traditional way, and I don't even really know how I broke it. And it's not a fault of the blaster, I'm blaming myself. I can't get the seal on this thing to like work at all anymore. Let me try. There's a little bit of a seal now, but that's taken, I don't know, like 30, 40 openings of this. I'm not even joking. I've been doing it like every day for the past like 3 weeks, multiple times. What originally happened was I had taken the thing apart. I was trying to smooth everything out because I'm excessive like that. And I used a lubricant that when I like looked at it, it didn't look right. There were little gobs of something floating around in it, so I shook it up a bunch for like a minute and then used it, and then the blaster wouldn't seal at all. So I tried everything I could. I don't know what kind of O-rings it uses, and I think I damaged the O-rings somehow. I have tried everything besides finding new O-rings for it. So while I did chronograph it when I got it, the performance you're going to see today may be inconsistent. Again, I'm taking full blame. This is an absolutely amazing blaster, and if it doesn't perform to your liking, it's because I messed it up. So I just want to let you know, I will not enjoy this part as much as I would if this blaster was working fully, but I've gotten it working pretty okay. Let's doink some targets. All right, somebody's gonna hate this, but I'm gonna use an optic, because the way I have to hold this thing, because of the long prime, I can't really use the iron sights, so yeah, I'm gonna use the optic to try to be a little bit more consistent. All right, target shooting. Closer to the bullseye, higher the score. And I'm gonna hope that I can correct my aim, 'cause I don't think this red dot's on at all. It is surprisingly close. Ooh, that one spun out a little bit. All right, it only holds a couple of darts. Gotta do a tactical reload. And that is why I love these kinds of blasters. This is why I don't like magazines. I like to top up in between engagements. 75? I think I can do better, but that's still pretty good. That's that inconsistency with the power. Fortunately, if it's bouncing around between 120 and 180 FPS, some of those shots are just gonna go low. $71. This blaster cheats. It works in a way that it pretty much has to work in order to have this function, which is it uses a vinyl tube to redirect the air from the plunger tube all the way to the front of the barrel. It kind of has to. The slab, the Winchester, they don't have to do that, but this is the closest to an actual lever action I have seen in the hobby. The velocities you get out of this thing are surprisingly good, and once you open this thing up and see how it works and see all the beautiful machine parts, and yeah, it's pretty special. It's both elegantly simple, and yet if it was so easy, more people would have done it by now. And that's why in space year 2024, this is one of the first times we've gotten this. Now, by now, hopefully you watched the firing footage where I told you that mine is not working the way it should. And I tried basically everything, taking this blaster apart so many times, and I could not get the seal back to where it was when I got it out of the box. I don't know what I did, and quite frankly, Walcom is cursed when it comes to springers. Thankfully, I chronographed this thing the second I got it out of the box, but when this thing was brand new, it was an absolute tack driver. It was one of the most fun experiences I've had in foam flinging because I personally love cowboy action fantasy stuff. It is bar none my favorite aesthetic, and if I could get a good lever action and a good revolver to go along with it, I am stupid happy. Which is why when it came to things like the hammer shot, I was a bit of a critic. And the G4 is the nicest blaster I have ever used. It is very expensive, and honestly, I don't think I would have ever got my hands on it had phantomtoys.com.au not sent it off to me for this video, but I'm really glad I got a chance to experience this thing, and really, my recommendation is going to side with those who obviously have the money to drop on a literal toy, but at the same time wants to feel that cold, unforgiving embrace of this grip as you line a punk up in your sights and drop them with your lever action with that super cool motion. Yeah, I know there's more than a couple of you out there that are willing to do that. And let's be fair, it's not perfect. But the problem is, do you want this? This is the only way right now you're gonna get that, and it might be the only way ever. If you want metal everything, you wanna feel that weight, that heft, that reliability, just get extra O-rings with your order, I guess. I'm gonna make a note right here, put extra O-rings in everybody's order. Yeah, the G4, there is nothing like this. I have fired it so many freaking times now. I've taken it apart so many freaking times now. Just during that last spring change, something went wrong with an O-ring and I can't figure out how to fix it. Trust me, I've tried all of the tricks I know, but I know that's a me fault and not a blaster fault. If you have the wingspan or you don't mind priming this a little awkwardly every single time you use it, you have the budget and you have the need, you're gonna really like the G4. Seriously, this never gets boring to me. It is absolutely just freaking fantastic.